Who the did I marry? Dubai edition. Again, you can put your finger down to pause, but this is the message he sent me the day after I found the receipt, aka the day I went to the pharmacy. While
The F did I marry Dubai edition, I saw a lady sharing a story time of how she dates this 40-year-old man. Found out, in fact, she found out the very first red flag she stayed, second red flag she stayed, third she stayed. She stayed for over a year and a half before she could leave that toxic relationship. In fact, she gave him free house to stay. She was feeding him, she was taking care of him when he had no job in the country. But I don't think they got married, but they were just living together. I don't know why she titled it, Who the fuck did I marry? Anyway, it's a quite interesting story time. About 24 minutes. She did part 1, part 2, and part 3. Everything together is 24 minutes. So let's watch these videos together and I'll share my thoughts at the end of the video.
Who the did I marry? Dubai edition. This story is about how I was cheated on for 2 years with the woman of the night, if you understand what I'm saying, by quite a well-known and respected chef in Dubai, my ex-boyfriend. So I met this guy in December of 2019, right before COVID, on Bumble. We matched, went on 2 dates, and I just was not feeling it. So I ghosted him. And at this point, he was already a chef. He was a chef at a restaurant you've probably been to. Now it no longer exists, but he's now a chef at a new restaurant at a really, really big hotel. Now, I work in marketing and I worked in an agency at the time, and in August of 2020, right after lockdowns, we got a new client. And you can guess, it was the restaurant that he worked at. Now, I was really nervous because obviously I ghosted this man, which in hindsight, I should have trusted my gut instinct. I feel like my insights were just telling me to stay away in December of 2019, but I didn't listen. And 2 months into working with each other, I asked him out on a date. Now, I must say, there is a 15-year age gap. Ladies, if they're single at 40, there is a reason they're single at 40. Anyways, we're dating for 10 months and his lease is up, my lease is up, so we decide to move in together, which in Dubai, I feel like is really normal to move in with someone that you've dated for less than a year. Thinking back now, a month before we moved in with each other, he was traveling back home for 3 weeks. And before he left for his holiday, I had a dream that he cheated on me, and I was watching it through like Zoom. And I woke up the next morning and I said, oh my god, I had a dream that you were cheating on me. And this man literally goes, that sounds so unlike me. Anyways, fast forward to us living with each other, I started noticing weird things that he would do. Like, for example, he would always keep his phone face down in a drawer. It'll either be the desk drawer or the drawer in our bedside table. Additionally, when he got back from his trip, because I work in marketing, I wanted to help him grow his social media presence. Now, he at the time had a personal page and a chef page. So I had access to that chef page because, again, that's what I do, and I wanted to help him in his career. I noticed when he got back from his holiday home that his search history had the same girl, and she was always at the top of his search. Like, all the names below her would change, but she would always be at the top, which meant he kept on looking for her on Instagram, which is weird because he doesn't even follow this girl. I'm just gonna confront him, and I call him and I'm like, listen, who is this girl that you keep on searching? And he was like, oh, we'll talk at home. Which, looking back now, I should have waited till I got home, because then that gave him the entire day to think of an excuse. So I wait for him to get home and he's just like, oh, I used to work with this girl, I used to have a crush on her, I don't know why I keep on searching her up, I'm sorry, will never happen again. So I was like, okay, weird, but whatever. So that kind of made me like on high alert. On October 2021, he left his phone unlocked on the bed and went to take a shower. And women, if you have the gut instinct, listen to that instinct. I took his phone, opened up Instagram, and opened his DMs, and there was a girl, not the girl that he was searching for, a different girl, on the top of his inbox. I click on it and it was full dirty talk. He was calling her baby girl, she was sending him photos. When he got out of the shower, I was like, who is, let's call her Katie. I was like, who is Katie? And he was like, what do you mean? I don't know a Katie. And I was like, you left your phone unlocked in bed I saw your DMs with Katie. And I swear, not only is this man a professional chef, he's a professional liar, because the lie he came up with so quickly is actually insane. He started apologizing and started saying Katie was his ex-girlfriend, which at that point I should have just ended it, because that would have saved me a lot of heartbreak. But I didn't, and I forgave him, and I said, you need to block Katie, message her, tell her you are in a happy relationship. Were we really? And he was like, I will. That obviously did not happen. This is the climax. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. When did I find out that he was cheating on me with women of the night? I was working from home this day and I was cleaning up the desk. Now, before I throw away any receipt, I read it first in case it's something important. At this point, we had been in a relationship for almost a year. This was exactly 4 days before our first anniversary. And I find a receipt for condoms, a razor, and mouthwash at a pharmacy in Sheikh Zayed Road, dated and timed at a time when he told me he was going to the mall. Now, this wouldn't usually be suspicious, but I was like, babes, where is this? Where are these items in this apartment? Because they're clearly not here. So learning from my mistakes before, I waited for him to come home so I could confront him face to face. He comes home that night. I slip him the receipt. And I'm like, what is this? And he goes, doesn't even flinch. Oh yeah, that's ours. I bought that for us. So I go, where are they then? They're not in this apartment. And he goes, oh, I must have left them at work. Where are you gonna leave these items in a restaurant? But I'm pretty sure you're not gonna leave a packet of condoms in a locker at your place of work, especially when you're the executive chef. So again, should have broken up with him at this moment, but I was young and dumb. And I'm like, okay, tomorrow, bring home these items. Now, I'm not completely that dumb because I do two things. Number one, because that restaurant was a client of ours, I knew people that worked there. So I messaged someone and asked them to check his locker to see if there's anything there. I didn't give them any context. It was more of just like a favor. Now this person instantly responds and he goes, I have never seen him ever use his locker. I'm pretty sure there's nothing in there. Now the second thing I do, because I had that receipt still, I went to that exact pharmacy. The reason I went to this pharmacy was because I wanted to make sure the products that they had on the shelf matched the QR codes that was on the receipt. Thinks he's being slick and brings home stuff from a different pharmacy, I'll know because they won't match the QR codes on the receipt. Funny story, I was literally looking at condoms and mouthwash in the pharmacy when the lady approaches me and asks if she could help me. And at that point, I was so angry. I literally looked at her and I said, no, I'm okay. I'm just trying to catch my boyfriend cheating on me. This is why I love women, because she was like, if there's anything I can do to help you, I will help you. And she was like, can you please update me? And I was like, yeah, I will. He comes home that night and throws the bag on the couch and he goes, here you go. I look in the bag and I'm like, yeah, those look like all the products. Now, I can't recall. I think I was just so emotionally exhausted that I didn't look at the QR codes that night. I was just like, I just want to go to sleep. So I put the bag aside and I go to bed. Next morning, the second I open my eyes, I'm running to that bag. I pull out the receipt. I look at the QR codes on the products. Of course, they didn't match. I was like, you went to the wrong pharmacy. He goes, what? So, you went to the wrong pharmacy. He sits up and of course he thinks of another lie on the spot and goes, you're right. I think I lost the items. The cleaners probably threw them away in the restaurant. So I went to another pharmacy to buy the exact same items because I knew you were gonna freak out like this. And at that point, I was like, I don't believe you, dude. I was like, fine, then explain to me why were you in this random pharmacy on Sheikh Zayed Road at this date and this time? And he goes, I didn't want to tell you at the time, but I had an interview. So I go, okay, who were you interviewing for? And he was like, it was for a private chef role, which is weird to me because he never talked about wanting a new job or was looking for a new job. So I go, okay, where did you get this interview from? He goes, LinkedIn. So I hand him his laptop and I'm like, show me the LinkedIn messages. I want to see the message where he's like, meet at this location at this time for this interview. He goes silent. And at that second, I knew. I should have known. From the second I found the receipt, I should have known. But that second was like, okay, you're caught. You have no more lies to tell. So I just go, who is it? And he goes, and I got back maybe 4 hours later and all of his things were packed up in bags. I, Bettina Miku, was an idiot. I was, because I took him back. And I was like, you don't have to move out. We'll work this through. I can fix him. Now this video is a bit long, so let me know if you want a part 2 of how I found out it was not just one, but it was at least 20. I've also got all the screenshots, all the hotel bookings, all the messages, and it gets so much deeper. Like, this man actually has problems. I'm gonna leave it at that for now, and if people are interested enough, I'll make a part 2. But I just wanted to warn all the young girls out there, if a man is single at 40, there is a reason they're single at 40. Who the did I marry? Part 2 by edition. While I get ready. Okay, at this point of the story, you're gonna think that I've absolutely lost my mind, and that is because at this point, I have lost my mind. But we learn from our mistakes. So before you start commenting and asking me why I stayed for as long as I did, it's because I was not okay. Now, before I move on with the story, I wanted to address a few receipts. Literal receipts. I'm gonna put it up on the screen. This is the receipt that started it all. This is the pharmacy receipt. And then this picture is a picture taken at the pharmacy where me and my friend went to go compare the QR codes. And then a screenshot of a message I sent another friend updating her on the whole situation. Now, I got my timelines a bit wrong. His excuse of it being an interview actually happened over text the day before. What happened during our argument was me handing him his laptop and asking him for the LinkedIn messages. Again, you can put your finger down to pause, but this is the message he sent me the day after I found the receipt, aka the day I went to the pharmacy. While reading this message, I was like, babes, make it make sense. This man finally had the time to sit and think of an excuse. Again, like I said, professional chef, professional liar. Okay, so you have to remember that this all happened 3 years ago, so I'm gonna do my very best to try to tell this story in order, but if I mess up, I will correct myself in a future video. So from the dates of the message, you can tell that this happened in early November. And as I said in my last video, I decided to stay with him. So all throughout November, I'm like, right, maybe we can work on this. So what I didn't mention in my last video was, not only was I now carrying this burden of being cheated on, but because he was a chef and he worked such long hours, I took care of everything at home. I would work all day and then come home to clean. And if anyone's ever dated a chef, you know they come home super late at night. So I would have to wait till like 11 p.m. at night to start cooking dinner because I wanted him to come home to a warm meal. So at this point in November, not only am I emotionally exhausted, but I am physically exhausted as well. I pretend like it didn't happen because, again, I was young and this was my first serious relationship. I did not know how to navigate these types of situations. In December, one of his friends come to visit Dubai. I'm not gonna say the country because a lot of people have been asking for the country and I just don't want to give anything away. So his friend gets here, let's call him Maddie. So me, my ex, and Maddie all have tickets to go to the top of the Palm. It's at the very top of Nakil Mall that overlook all of the Palm. So we pick Maddie up and we're on our way in an Uber. While in the Uber, my phone died. I give my phone to the driver to charge it while we're in the car. We get to Nakil Mall, we all get out, and then I realize I left my phone in the Careem. Now, because my ex booked the Careem, I contacted the Careem driver through his phone. At the same time, we had these tickets to go up to the tower, and I didn't want to waste it because of my silly mistake. So I told the boys, you go up ahead, I will stay down here and wait for my phone to arrive. You can tell my ex was like extremely hesitant to leave me alone with his phone. I stayed in the parking lot of this mall waiting for this Careem driver. He tells me through my ex's phone that he will need 10 minutes. And I swear, if you are being cheated on, the universe will do anything possible for you to find out that you are being cheated on. Because at this point, I was alone with this man's phone. And of course, what do? I go straight to archived WhatsApp. At the top of his archived messages, I see a contact labeled Russians. Now, I click on this message and it went back months. He would message this person. I'm gonna guess it's his requests. For example, he will say, I want one girl in Marina at 1 p.m. This person then responds to him at least 20 images of different types of girls, to which my ex would then pick a girl and say, I want this one. Almost as if you're picking off of a menu. And this wasn't the only contact he had in his archive. There were other contacts where he would message them and ask them what room number they're in. In my head, I was like, where the hell are you finding these numbers? Like, are you picking up massage cards in Barsha or Satwa and like WhatsApping these people? I genuinely don't understand. That's when I realized it wasn't just Katie. Which, by the way, I found their WhatsApps as well, and Katie was in Dubai. I didn't even know Katie was based in Australia, staying at his 2 months after we officially started dating. I eventually get my phone back and I meet the boys upstairs, and I'm not speaking. You can tell there is something clearly wrong with me. I am pissed off. We get back in an Uber to head home. Honestly, you could cut the tension with a knife in that car ride home. We get home, I sit on the couch, he sits next to me. He's like, what's wrong? I then go, I looked at your archived WhatsApps. I saw all the messages of all the you cheated on me with. You told me it was just this one time. So why do you think I'm pissed off? When I tell you, I've never seen a grown man cry the way this man cried and begged. He was crying on the ground for a second chance. It's more like a fourth chance at this point. And of course, what did young dumb Bettina do? I gave it to him. So at this point, I knew I was being cheated on. I just found out my ex was hiring on the monthly basis. I also know now that Katie is based in Australia, who he flew to Dubai to have. But the plot thickens. I think it was a week after all of this happens. I'm again working from home and I get a phone call from my ex, who again is still my boyfriend at this time. This is December of 2021. He calls me and says, I just got fired. For what reason? Till this day, I genuinely don't know. So now this man really has nowhere to go. So I feel sorry for him. I feel like I need to take care of him. He's like a broken bird and I need to fix his wings. And I'm just like, oh shit, okay, we'll figure this out. When I tell you, this man lived in at this point, was my apartment for 3 months rent free. So now I'm paying for all the rent. I'm paying for all the groceries. I'm paying for everything that this man needs. I'm having to leave cash on the counter at home in case he wanted to order in while I'm out at work, because all he ends up doing for the next 3 to 4 months is sitting on the couch and playing Nintendo all day. So at this point, not only am I young and dumb, but I'm also broke. After a month, I'm like, right, bro, you need to start looking for a job. I don't remember why, but he used my laptop to send out emails, which means I now have his emails logged into my laptop. So he was out one night and I was home alone, and of course I looked through his email. Now, do you remember the trip he took to go back home for 3 weeks, the month before we moved in with each other, when I had that dream that I was watching him through Zoom cheating on me? I'm gonna attach screenshots here of email bookings he made with. There was at least 3, so 1 girl a week. Not only did he go home, but he traveled to different cities around the country and the country next door to go see these girls. Actually, I think there was 4. Now, some of the emails I couldn't read the contents of because he was using something called Proton Mail, which at the time I never heard of, but it's basically an encrypted email platform where, unless you are using the device you created your email on, no other device could read the contents of those emails. I can see the subject lines and I can see who it's from, which is how I found out they were, because I googled them. Although you can see from some of the subjects, it's labeled ID, which means they were probably asking for a copy of his ID. Again, I should have known. I dreamt it. My gut was telling me that he was gonna do some shady shit while he was away for 3 weeks. While I'm in his email, I look at his Google Drive. He had this folder in his drive that was screenshots of girls. It was either pictures that were sent to him by these. It was screenshots of random girls' Tinder and Bumble profile. It was screenshots of random girls' Instagram stories that he would zoom into this area. And I'm thinking, some of these girls might be his friends. This is creepy behavior. I find the WhatsApps, I find the email bookings, I find a random folder full of random girls' images. Like, some of it would actually be like screen recordings of these stories. His visa eventually gets cancelled in February, which means he needs to go back to where he came from. And I think I'm gonna end this video here. But I will tell you now, I stay with this man for another year. And he comes back to Dubai 6 months later. And while he's away, I find more disturbing things out over the span of this next year. If you want a part 3, let me know. Part 3 of Who the Did I Marry Dubai edition. Before I start this video, I just wanted to clear something. A lot of people are mentioning Dubai men in my comments. Now, these series of videos aren't meant to target Dubai men. I've been on so many lovely dates with men who have now become friends in my life. About 50% of my friend group are men, and I love every single one of them. There are so much good men in Dubai. I think the point of all these videos is, it took me a year and a half to feel strong enough to leave this toxic relationship. Unless you are in a position, you actually don't know how difficult it is. Some people, like myself, need time to process things emotionally. So if you're unhappy in your relationship, but you're not ready to let go yet, that is okay. Take the time you need, but start doing the internal work. Because one day, just like me, it's gonna be a random Monday, and you're gonna wake up and you're gonna be like, you know what? I'm done with this. So anyways, back to the story time. I left off finding all his emails and a Google Drive full of images of random women. Oh, I also forgot. While I was in his emails, when I first got access to his email, I found his email thread with Katie, remember the Australian, where he's asking her to unfollow him on Instagram. He says she can continue following him on her private account, but because he now has a girlfriend who is jealous and paranoid, he needed to stop speaking to her on Instagram. And he said they can continue talking on email. He leaves Dubai around February, maybe March, and I don't tell him I have access to his email. I don't tell him that he's still logged in on my laptop. During the first week that he was home, I think I was busy at work, so I wasn't thinking about his email. And then one morning, I was working from home on my laptop, and I was like, let me just peek. This man, in his first week of being back home, created a Twitter account, created an OnlyFans account, and signed up to a website for in his city. FBI should just be full of women, because the way I hacked into his OnlyFans account and saw messages and all the girls he was subscribed to when he had no money to contribute in rent, but he's paying all these girls to send him nudes. And I sent him a Zoom link. This must have been the worst day of my life, because at this point I was exhausted. He cheated on me with and tried continuing his communication with Katie on email, freeloaded off of me for 3 months, and now that he's back at home, he's just gonna do it all over again, which honestly I should have seen it coming. I broke up with him on Zoom that day, and I felt so over with life. And again, me being the young, dumb girl I was, after being in my first serious relationship, being single was terrifying for me. So it wasn't long until we got back together. We would Zoom every night. We would Zoom every day, multiple times a day for hours on end. And when he didn't have money, I downloaded the food delivery app. Doing my best not to give any hints of where this man is from. I downloaded the food delivery app of his country to send him food, which later on my credit card ended up getting hacked, and it was hacked from that country. So I'm pretty sure it's from that app. But anyways, we get back together. He eventually finds a new job here in Dubai, and he moves back to Dubai. We were living together for another 6 months. And at that point, I was like, ignorance is bliss. I don't want to know anything anymore. I stopped looking through his phone. I stopped looking through his emails. I was like, I'm just so done. And so many people wanted me to leave, but it's true what they say about women. When we end up leaving, we didn't just make that decision on the spot. We made that decision months and months ago. And in my case, I made that decision a year ago. I was just emotionally preparing myself to actually leave, because at that point, I didn't even want to touch him anymore. We were like roommates, and I knew he could feel it, because every time I would leave the apartment to go to work, he would always tell me that he loved me. In the last 2 months, I just wasn't responding. I was ashamed that I was still with him at this point. The straw that broke the camel's back. Again, I wasn't looking through his phone. I wasn't looking through his email for months, at least since he got back from his country. But just like the beginning, he was in the shower and left his phone unlocked in bed. And my spidey senses came back. My insights were like, Bettina, you need to check that phone now. And I think this was the most part of it all, because I opened his Instagram and I looked through his search history, and he was looking at accounts dedicated to images of women breastfeeding. Some of the images still had the baby attached, and I sat in bed thinking, do I want this man to be the father of my children? There is something psychologically wrong that he would find pleasure in looking at these types of content, and that really scared me. I did everything in my power not to be at home, and a week later, on a Monday, I wait for him to come back from the gym. I sit him down and I told him he needs to pack his shit and get the fuck out of my apartment. And I remember his entire family had booked a trip to come to Dubai for the first time, and they were meant to land 10 days after I broke up with him. While his family was here, he messaged me non-stop begging me to just have dinner with his parents, because clearly he did not have the balls to tell them that we broke up, because he probably knew had he told them that we broke up, they were gonna ask him why. That was my crazy experience of dating someone who I think is genuinely mentally ill, yet is still celebrated in the city. But it's just so scary. And if there's anything I wish for him, which I've begged him to do for years, is that I genuinely wish he is in therapy right now. Because between the escorts and the and the OnlyFriends accounts and the content he consumes on social media, the content he screenshots of random girls on Instagram, girls that he knows in person that may be posting in their bikini and saving it in a Google Drive, that's just not normal. So yeah, this is the end of my story. But if you're in an unhappy relationship and you need time to process before leaving that toxic environment, I understand what you're going through 100%. It took me a year and a half to leave, and then it took another year in therapy to heal. And genuinely, if you are unhappy, just believe your time will come.
As I said, it's quite interesting. It's long, but it's quite interesting to see that a lot of these thing is actually normal for women to not leave at the very first red flag, because women have this little mind like, I can change him, I can adjust, he will finally come back to his senses, he will finally understand what I mean to him. In fact, people would say, oh, it's not all that bad. In fact, the fact that she even knew that it was with those people and she still stayed, she wasn't even afraid of infections. In fact, that's what was in my head. Like, for someone that was doing it with multiple women, especially women that are exposed to a lot of men like that, definitely, you are definitely exposed to a lot of things. Even via kissing, you are exposed to a lot of things, right? So sometimes some things will happening to you. You just be like, I can overcome it. I can adjust. I can change this person. At the end of the day, they get worse, or they learn to even hide it more. That's one thing about a cheating partner, especially when you find out the very first time and they cry and they beg and you accept it. They will continue doing it till you leave because of that same thing. And that's why I keep preaching, this is the very best time to leave at the very first red flag, because that same red flag that allowed you to, that you ignored the very first time, will be the reason you are leaving after years, and it is not going to change. In fact, if you feel like it changed for a month or two, they got better. And the fact that there was a time she said she was not even checking the phone and everything, maybe things were going fine at that time, so she decided to check and see so many things. Just imagine she was checking continuously, a lot of things that she would have seen. Imagine him chatting up with his ex-girlfriend and saying, oh, let's not talk here because I have a crazy girlfriend now, let's talk somewhere else. This is what these men are capable of doing, and I don't even get it. Actually using her as somebody that would understand me, would take me for who I am, but then still want something serious with me. That's what he was using her for. So for him to bring his parents that want to come and stay at that place, definitely, probably they want to take things to the next level. You want to take things to the next level, but you're Googling mother breastfeeding their child. That's like another fetish on its own. But thank God our brain clicked, and that's one thing about being in a toxic relationship with somebody for a very long time. No matter how much red flags you see, how much red flags you ignore, it gets to a stage whereby something will just click and you just be like, what the F am I still doing here? And that makes women to leave. And that's why you see that women do not just leave just by deciding immediately. They have already started checking out emotionally, they've checked out mentally. It just remains them to check out physically and make that serious decision. What is your take on this story time? Kindly share your thoughts down in the comment section. Respectfully, Chago Maria David. I thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this one. Please like and share and subscribe. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye.